Hi, friends and family,
Welcome to Hope After Addiction
with your host, Katie Comer.
and Chelsea McLeod.
Hi, welcome to Hope After Addiction. We are so happy that you have joined us today. How are you, my friends?
I am doing good. How are you?
Good. Anything new with you? How's baby boy?
Oh,
Baby
he's
boys.
so good. They're
Tell me about
both
Jasper.
adorable. I know.
I know.
He's still a baby too. They're both adorable and precious. Jasper just loves him so
Does
hard.
he?
So it's a constant like.
Is he getting jealous of him?
He told me to take baby Jude to work with me the other day.
Okay.
So I would
A little
say
bit.
yes, but he loves him. But there's those emotions of like, Mommy, you need to take baby Jude to work with you today.
Yeah.
And I was like, no,
We're a
bud.
little over him.
Yes, he wanted the nanny to himself, and I was like, So there's those moments, but he loves him so.
Aw, I know.
It's the sweetest. He wants pictures all the time. Mama, just take one more last picture. One more. And he'll cuddle with them and get the blanket. It's sweet.
Oh, he knows his mom is a photographer.
He does. He does. He does. He gets it. Yeah. Yeah. He's learning
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's so
The
sweet.
sweetest.
Yeah.
I know.
Today we are going to be talking about. I was trying to figure out how to word this. We were talking about that before. It's okay.
Speaking of the subject,
Being authentic. We're
Yes.
super authentic in this
Yep.
podcast.
Organic.
Organic. But how to be and how to really think about being authentic over perfect. That's a good way.
Yeah, it's perfect. Perfect.
But am I authentic?
But you're authentic. Yes.
Right?
Not playing. Yeah.
Okay.
No, really. Yeah.
We are super authentic. But yeah, so being authentic, being, what did you say the other word was?
Organic.
Organic.
Yeah.
Over the feeling of what the world says. I feel like the worldly way of saying that is perfect. And that's just, there's nobody perfect,
No.
but the only one that was perfect that came to save us was Jesus. So
Yep.
we can strive to be like him.
Yeah.
I feel like we're called to be like him, but we will never be him and we will never be perfect. And I think that the world puts so much pressure
Yeah.
on us as women specifically. I mean, I know we have men watching this as moms. If you're a mom out there, I feel like there's so much comparison. The word comparison, when I was preparing for this, came up a lot. Because we compare ourselves because we're not that person. So it's like a notch
All
down
the time.
where
Yeah.
you're like, I'm never going to be that. But God calls us to not be that, but be authentic in who he's called you to be.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. And I feel like we have a large shift in the generation today. It's the perfectionism. Like we have AI that is literally perfecting everybody and everything. But then we have this authentic self that's coming out, and it's like, let's be authentic with our feelings. Let's be open. Let's talk about this stuff. And so we're in a wide gap of what does that mean? I want to be perfect, but I also want to be authentic. But God calls us to be authentic. He calls us to be one in his image. And that's what we will always strive for, like Katie said, but to be authentic and real, because God can't use us in perfectionism. And perfectionism is really what it goes back to. And it's a complex personality trait. I've always struggled with it. And it goes back to the father that left. And so most of the time in that personality trait, it goes back to something in your childhood. So you're striving and trying to be something out of like an insecurity inside of you. And so it's so important to be that authentic self. And even this podcast, I mean, Katie and I really fought with being vulnerable and authentic with our lives. Like, this is what happened. This is where we are today. We love it, but it's like, we're going to share our story with the world.
yeah. I still struggle with it sometimes
Yeah.
because she's really good about coming up with topics. She's just like really creative and stuff. And so she'll send me topics and I'm like, I'll think about it. I don't tell her this, but I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going to
Nope.
do that one. Actually, it might have been this one.
That's funny. You're like, okay.
I think you sent this to us like a couple of weeks ago, and I like
Okay.
scrolled past it. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that one.
Nope.
That's
Nope.
too much like conviction.
Yes, it's true.
Of just like feeling like, yes, like we struggle with this even on the podcast, or especially at the beginning, and feeling like, are you adequate enough to speak on this stuff. I mean, I know my story, and I have the resume.
Right. Yeah.
To do it. Chelsea has the resume to do it. But I felt like I had to be perfect. And obviously you can tell we are close, but
far
we
away.
are far away from
Yep.
I felt like, especially those beginning episodes, go back and watch them. Like, I don't know. I was actually thinking about that. Like when we have guest speakers on, just like there is like nerves there sometimes. I'm like, oh, we felt that. We felt that. We get that. And so, just because because there's a standard of you got to be perfect in what you say. And that's just not it. You've got to be authentic in how you deliver it and what you say. And that's what God's calling us to do.
Yeah. It's crazy you sent this topic because I had this past September, wherever you're watching this, September is National Recovery Month. And God gave me a word. I had a crazy day at work, but he gave me a word. I was like, I got to write it now. Okay. And I text John and I was like, hey, are you okay if I share a little bit about you, just a picture in your story? And let me tell y'all, the enemy fought me and fought me and fought me. Like, no, you put this up and everybody else is, everybody already knows, but he did not want me putting that up. And I had a friend, I went again because I knew what he was doing. And I had a friend text me the next day and she was like, I needed that so much. And she said, I woke up and prayed to God for a God wink. And that's what he gave me. And this has nothing to do with me. This is obeying what God asked you to do in an authentic way for you, your story, and what you're walking through. Because the enemy wants to silence you. He does not want you to be authentic whatsoever. No. He does not want you to share. He does not want you to be open. He does not want you to tell what God's done in the muck and the mire. Because in order to share, you also have to share your muck and your mire, which is the hardest part. And so when God prompts you to do that, to be authentic, do that. And it doesn't mean every detail. Like we say that a lot, even when we're talking to kids or teens, it doesn't mean you have to go into the grim detail of exactly what it looked like, but it's sharing the redemption and restoration that God's done. Yeah. And the enemy will try his best to shut you up. That's what he wants to do.
And the enemy will try his best also to make you feel like you've got to be perfect. And let me just tell you, it's exhausting and it'll always lead to the feeling of inadequate. So therefore, the enemy has done his job because you don't want to feel inadequate. And so you decide not to do what you've been called to do. And the enemy wins.
Oh, yeah. So, I literally wrote in my notes that chasing the perfect image and the perfect self is like chasing a dangling carrot. Yeah. You will forever be left exhausted, insecure, inadequate. Exactly right. It's seriously chasing. Rest comes with authenticity. Rest comes with opening up, being vulnerable. Because there's those moments, even like Katie talked about, and she's a couple speaking movements that she's done. Like that's when God shows up, and you get filled up because you've obeyed what God's asked you to do, even in the uncomfortable. Because it is super uncomfortable. Yeah. This was super uncomfortable for us. Yeah. There's days it still is. Yeah. There's days I've gone home and be like, Katie, did I say too much? Did I share too much?
Because you're being authentic in what God called you to do.
Authentic self.
And so, and resting in that. And so, also being able to embrace the season you're in, and what God's put you through, essentially. So for me, I'll just say for me specifically, there was the season where I did not want to embrace who God's called me to be. And that is, a wife of somebody who has an addiction story. Like like that's just not what I envisioned for my life. I wanted to be more, not have to think about anything ever in my life. Like I want to always trust my husband. You know what I mean? Like it's not something I ever thought that I would have to live. Yeah. And so, but over the years, as trust began to come back and, me sharing my story as healing as it can be, I began to embrace that authenticity of who God's called me to be and not shy away from it. And so just remember, being able to accept the faults, I don't know the word I'm trying to look for, but can also turn to strengths, or the weaknesses can turn to strengths by the grace of God. So where I thought it might have been a weakness, right? My husband used to be addicted to this. It's like a dirty part of our story. Turned out to be one of our hugest strengths as a couple, because I shifted the way I thought about it. And now it's a beautiful mess that our story was, that we get to share and encourage others. And then in turn, we've heard of other women sharing their story. We're going to have a guest speaker on our next episode, so stay tuned, who was like that. I remember sitting with her, and Chelsea sitting with her, and just her story is so beautiful, right? So painfully beautiful, but yes. Yeah. And so I think that what we thought was just like a dirty mess can be actually really beautiful. You shine it up.
Oh,
you know what I mean? So.
Yeah. It's so special because Katie's so right. Like that, I heard a pastor say years ago, is let your pain be your pedestal. And that is exactly what God's called us to do. And you think back to the Bible, and most of the greatest characters, they didn't have a perfect story. And honestly, in all reality, none of us do. Every human on this earth, we don't have a perfect story because it's not reality. And so God calls, he wants the mess. He wants your story. He wants what feels so uncomfortable and messy. That's what he wants. Those are the ones he wants. And that's you. That's your story. And one of the things that, I'm oftentimes reminded of is authenticity is oftentimes rejected, but not always for long. And I learned this in my journey, that a lot of times authenticity is rejected because it makes somebody else uncomfortable. One, because they're living their own trauma with it. Two, because they don't know what to say. And so I think it requires a lot of grace. If you ever do share and you are rejected for it, do not take that personally. Do not take that to heart, because I can't tell you how many times in this journey that it's come back and somebody said, hey, I need to talk to you. We're going through the same thing, or I'm finally ready to talk about it. And so know that if you're ever rejected for sharing that, it's not you. That's one of my greatest lessons and most precious lessons, because I've learned to give grace for the times that I did feel rejected or somebody just didn't receive. It's because they're probably walking through their own storm and not ready to share yet. But one day they will be. And you know who they're going to come to? It's going to be you. So be brave, even in rejection. Share it. Even if it's not received, share it. Open up about it.
Yeah. In Romans 5:8, but God proves his own love for us, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And so that verse stood out to me in this particular talk, that is saying that you don't have to be perfect, because God died for us. We're sinners, and we're never going to be perfect like he was. Yeah. And that while we were still sinners, that is when he took on the cross and said, I love you. I love you no matter what. I love you no matter the stains. I love you no matter whatever, XYZ. He loves your loved one who's addicted. They're a mess, and we get it. It's a messy part of your story. But God died for them. He died for you, and he died for that sin. And so let it be used. And another charge to you, just to share your story, because you just never know who really is needing to hear that messy part of your story that God has redeemed or is redeeming. So
yeah, I always go back to characters in the Bible, just trying to relate and know that you're not alone. It helps. But I think about the woman at the well, and how he went to her, like you just said, I love you no matter how messy you are, no matter lies, no matter, infidelity, whatever it may be, no matter what. And she was not ashamed to be authentic and run back to the town and tell what God had done. And that's what I compare to, is just, he loves all of us, no matter what our story. Even so often, I think we feel like we're the receivers of bad, this shouldn't be our story. But like we always say, it is your story. And you may have received this card, this hand of cards that you didn't ask for, but it's your story, and God needs you. God wants you.
Yeah. And essentially, we've talked about this too, just the spirit of having a grateful heart in your season. I think also prepares your self for authenticity too. So being grateful for, for me, I'm grateful. That's kind of what I was saying. I'm grateful for my season of addiction, or Adam's season of addiction, of us walking through it and having that spirit of gratefulness so that I can be my authentic self. It helps me not put on a face of being perfect. And I will be the first person to tell you our story is not perfect, but I'm grateful for it. And it helps me be able to share that with people. And it's helped us be able to sit in a small group when we first moved here and share our story, because Adam was his authentic self, because he was grateful for what God has done in his life. So
changed the whole room when he did it.
did.
You know, like
Their
coolest
faces,
story.
Yeah, I know. It's still one of my favorite stories. Their mouths were wide open. Adam told them the whole story for like 20 minutes, because they were all going around going, yeah, my name is so-and-so and so-and-so. And, we have 2
3 kids.
And it's fine. And then next person, good job. And then Adam's like, just got out of rehab.
Mic drop.
Been there. My wife, she almost left me. And I was waiting for divorce papers in the mail. And I don't know why I turned country. Because not all people
It just
I just got real country.
It fits. It's your imitating voice.
I am from East Tennessee, so it does come out every now and then.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Anyway.
No, but it's a powerful story though.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens. Like, you open up and it's like, oh, wow. Okay, I can be authentic with you now.
Yeah.
Because,
yes, and that's what happened.
Yes. It takes being authentic for somebody to feel safe enough to be authentic.
Yeah.
Period. If you are not authentic, like, authenticity wins every time. If you walk into a group with a perfect face, nobody's going to share. Nobody's going to open up.
Yeah.
And so often, and I struggle with this, like, I don't want to cry in front of people. I've got to have this like strong face. And Katie and I just did an event, and we did Round Circle, which we love. And so many women, it's, I'm sorry for crying. I'm sorry for crying. And every time, like, don't be sorry.
No.
This is a part of your story. This is your heart. This is real, and this is authentic. And that's why we love this.
Yes. Yeah.
That's why we love it.
Be authentic.
Mm-hmm.
You got anything else?
I think that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we hope that you felt encouraged to be authentic, that you don't have to be perfect, but authenticity is what God has called us to. And so we hope that you take something from this, glean something from this, and use it in your life. And we're so thankful for our listeners who hear us every week, and we hope that you continue to hear us every week. We do have a special guest next week we're looking forward to, and so stay tuned for that. If you are watching us on any of our social media platforms, make sure you are sharing it with others. If you are seeing this on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe so you can see when that next one drops. And we hope you have a blessed day, and we will talk to you next time. Bye.